Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Strike's Talking Points. And after a wonderful weekend with my family, I come back to decide to check in on the news. And what do I see? Portland, June 29th, 2019, and the protests. So before I begin, I'd always like to say, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Comment on the video, because it's the only way to have discussion is to go through the comments and actually talk to people, what you think, what you feel, what you believe. That's the only way to get information out there, is to actually have conversations, talk to people, understand the way people think and how people see the world. And from Portland, this is from OregonLive.com. Portland protests on June 29th. Now, I find it very interesting. Sorry, I'm skipping back to a video here from The Independent. Antifa attacked conservative blogger Andy Ngo amid violence at Portland Proud Boys protest. Now, you'll see a lot of the different framing. I believe if you go to Google News, you see it where they talk about after far right, Antifa groups clash. Now you see people calling out, just reading some headlines here, 3 arrested, 8 need medical care after street brawl. Portland mayor, police come under fire after a right-wing writer attacked at protest. He's just a journalist. Doesn't matter if he's left or right. You shouldn't be attacking them. Should Antifa be designated a terrorist group, a domestic terrorist group? And now you start to see some people come after this. Now, I found this really interesting to look at. These pictures from Oregon Live. You see Antifa. This is Antifa being hit with multiple groups, including Rose City Antifa, the Proud Boys, and conservative activist Haley Adams were protesting in downtown Portland. See this man being sprayed. You scroll down a little bit more. You see this man who was beaten by Antifa. Some images here of him actually talking to Antifa, probably yelling at them more or less. And then a few moments later, you see these pictures emerging of him where he'd been smashed over the head, had his head split open. Of course, multiple groups, including Rose City Antifa, Proud Boys, conservative activists, blah, blah, blah. Here is a full-on riot gear person, not a policeman, riot gear person running through the streets. You see all these masked people, and from all the videos, all the images I've found, these tend to be Antifa groups clashing with police. You see different people being sprayed with pepper spray, milkshakes are everywhere. But mostly what you see is Antifa lining up against the police. Antifa beating people, bludgeoning people, throwing things at people, the police and whatnot, all the way through. Again, engaging with the police, trying to fight the police, literally coming after them. You see, majority of the violence that occurred, if not all but a tiny amount, were precipitated by Antifa groups. They were continuing trying to push the police, trying to find ways around the police, coming in and just causing random violence. And here's a picture of the aforementioned Andy Ngo, I'm not 100% sure of his name, who is a gay son of immigrants, a journalist who was attacked by extremely aggressive white liberals who have no principles on their attack, just attacking someone who is different, who is actually in 2 protected classes, but because his politics disagree with theirs, they have the right to attack him. You see the Antifa in full battle gear. You see people passing out flowers, giving talks about what's going to happen. I don't know what the dinosaur unicorn thing is, but hey, they were giving out milkshakes, and according to police reports from Portland themselves, Multiple assaults were reported, police said, and items were thrown at demonstrators and officers that looked like milkshakes but contained quick dry cement. That's from the police, where they released that that's what was happening. A lot of random stuff was going on. Free vegan milkshakes, no Nazis. What you have is the upside down world, where violent protesters go out, attack the police, attack other people, and then claim that they are in fact defending themselves, even though from all the videos I found, from all the conversations that are out there, the Antifa were escalating the violence. They were attacking people.
No Proud Boys! No KKK! No fascist USA! No Proud Boys! No KKK! No fascist USA! No Proud Boys!
The belief that we live in a fascist society is beyond me. These people are, Antifa as a group, are actually causing more violence than any other group in America. They are actually going into cities, attacking people. They are going after journalists, punching them, milkshaking them, throwing things at them. There's one man trying to I wouldn't be surprised if he was pushed out or beaten later. And you still see mainstream people, lawmakers, supporting them, even though this violence seems to be erupting everywhere. Here's a short clip. Beating a man up. 5, 6, 7 people. This is the old man who's been hit in the back, in the legs. Another man who was trying to defend him, has his head smashed open, being kicked, pushed. And that is actually the older gentleman who, if I can scroll down here, this is what his head looked like after that. The video clearly shows him being attacked, a man trying to separate it. Hey. Immediately start hitting him. Nunchucks, bear spray, mace. This is your freedom, people. This is Antifa. Man's on the ground. Got a dragon. They're bear spraying the other guy, beating him across, throwing things at him. And of course, that is Antifa being violent, which is what Antifa is supposed to do. They are supposed to be violent, aggressive, anger. And then I found a very unique story that I wanted to point out here. Well, lost it in my stuff, because there's just so much going on in this stuff. Oop. Just closed it by accident. 1 second. Here it is. This is the story. I showed a clip from it earlier. A fascist attack in Portland. Andy Ngo is a journalist who writes for National Review, Spectator USA, Quillette, among other things. He has documented violence perpetrated by the fascist group Antifa. Yesterday, Ngo was covering an Antifa demonstration in Portland where he was set upon and beaten by around 20 masked thugs. This is a video that's broke loose. I have always thought of the way that Antifa acts, even though they, as Don Lemon of CNN put it, they are anti-fascist. It's in the name. They're against fascism. They are an extremely militant group of white, entitled liberals who are out there attacking a son of immigrants, minority, person of color, gay man, attacking him in the street. They are beating up elderly people in the street. They are violently attacking those who disagree with them. They are extremely aggressive, extremely demented, and are fighting the police more than any other group. Granted, the police hold them back with barricades, with lines, However, is this going to be enough over the next few years? With the current censorship you see going online, for YouTube to Facebook to Twitter to Reddit to all these different groups, all basically falling in line and trying to shut down any other message. How long is it before Antifa, this group which is up until very recently, up until today, has been generally lauded by the mainstream media as they're fighting Nazis, they're pushing back, they're trying to stem the tide, when these are extremely aggressive, extremely violent people going out to cause trouble, to attack people, to beat people, to silence opposition, how long before they do become recognized as a hate group? How long before we look at what they're doing as domestic terrorism? The same way we look at people, let's say, from, let's just say, the Ku Klux Klan, from actual neo-Nazi groups, who, by the way, those groups are universally derided. They have no mainstream access. They are not purported by the media as these saviors to people. They are attacked. They are rightly so shunned by the media. Their ideas are brought out only to be ridiculed. And now you have Antifa, a violent activist group, going out into Portland, attacking the police, confrontations with counter-protesters. Even if they are counter-protesters, if there's just people in the street and you disagree with Antifa, it does appear that they'll attack journalists. I've seen the stuff from last year from the second Charlottesville rally where they were slicing cords on reporters' gear. They were clashes with police. They were attacking just general citizens. This push by the mainstream media to keep these groups on the forefront, to make you believe that they are doing something right, that they are fighting actual Nazis, when they're acting exactly as the old Nazi, the fascist, all these hate groups. How they got to power was through an organization like this, going out in the streets, causing political violence, silencing your opponents, having the mainstream mass media push you, saying that you're doing the right thing. When is it going to be that enough is enough? When are we going to start saying, hey, these people are causing the problems, these people are the violence, these people are actually causing the problems we're seeing? If Antifa gets to go out, gets to encourage political violence, gets to commit assault, so like you see here, these people are actually pouring these milkshakes, these things together to throw at other people. They're getting what you would consider weapons for assault ready. And it is public knowledge they're doing this, and yet there is no push to stop them. There is no call to shut them down, except from moderates, from people on the right. You don't see any of this from the left. You see very limited condemnation or even speaking about it on the left. You have Jake Tapper and one or two other CNN personalities saying you shouldn't attack you shouldn't attack journalists. But you're seeing attacks against the police, attacks against bystanders, attacks against other protesters. It's escalating over and over and over again. I'm wondering how long until we see another UC Berkeley where a woman and a gay Jewish man come to speak, and because they're considered provocateurs and they don't align solidly with the left, that you see riots, you see burning of property, you see attacks, you see more and more escalation, because it's considered socially acceptable to join Antifa in these cities, to go out to violently attack the police, to beat people who disagree with you with sticks, nunchucks, punches. And these are places that are allowed on Twitter. Twitter, Facebook allow these groups to exist. YouTube doesn't silence their channels like they would, let's say, any member on the right who says would ever say anything about political protest or violence, they get silenced immediately. However, these groups are allowed to perpetuate, to grow, to go in, to attack police, to beat other protesters, smashing people, putting people in hospital. This is completely acceptable. To where man on the right honestly believes he's a savior to the world by attacking Nazis, when the other group are basically saying, hey, we think America's a good place, we believe in freedom, we believe in freedom of speech, we believe in these things, but because they disagree on limited ideology, that you see an old man getting beat senseless, put in the hospital. And I would say that you would need to be crazy not to go into any of these places. And you see, he does have a little club there in his hand. Man attempts to hit someone, spraying him with pepper spray during civil disobedience disturbance. Yeah, that's what you're going to see. And this is the man you see in the other stuff that's been beat up. Here, that's his head after the fact. These are just the tip of the iceberg. As this political violence grows up, where you'll have 2 or 3 people on one side, hundreds on the other, and just being attacked, ridiculed, beaten, sit in the hospital, attacks against the police. That's just where we are in our country today. It's very sad to see. I do think that we're not far off from seeing Antifa labeled as a hate group. I'm wondering, as you see here in the stories, Ted Cruz and a few others are actually starting to call for investigation into the mayor of Portland, into the police, into these different groups on the government side, about why they're allowing this to happen, what they're going to do to deal with it. When, I don't see here, but you can see there, Washington Examiner, Ted Cruz calls for legal action against Portland mayor, who has, to my knowledge, a few times pulled the police back, told them not to get involved. And remember that the protesters there for the Patriot Prayer, for the Proud Boys, had gotten their gotten their licenses, gotten their stuff to hold the rally, gotten their legal stuff together, and Antifa did not. They just came out for the attacks. So please let me know what you guys think, and thank you for listening.